saving that the president talked about. He talked about saving, which really, if the hustler fund is coming, let the savings also be directed to the hustlers. It's already been allocated. They're just waiting for a few confirmations and a few approvals from the county. I want to request the county government so that this can be expedited so that the work in that market can begin in earnest. I also want to thank the team that has been pushing for Mugumoini market to start operating. Chairman Alois, I know you're watching this moment, and you said and asked me so that we can push for the market of Mugumoini, and the lawyers who are here to help us also push so that the small battles that we're having in court can also come to an end so that it can be done and over with. I also want to take this opportunity to tell Langata people that the issue of water, and anytime you mention the word Langata, everybody talks about water. The Northern Corridor grid is already being worked on, and we hope that during this and during my regime as the Member of Parliament of Langata, the water issue will finally come to an end when the Northern Corridor infrastructure is finished with and we are gridded into it. Finally, Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity also to ask the Speaker in his wisdom, wherever he is, that later when he comes here, he makes the best ruling that Azimio is the majority in this House. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Asante. I've donated my remainder time to Salasia. He had requested me to donate some 2 minutes to Salasia.
No.
He had something wanted. Yes.
You're out of order.
Salasia is here.
Member for Langata, you're out of order. I will now call upon Member for Kigumo. Member for Kigumo.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Joseph Kamau Munyoro. I'm from Kigumo constituency. I would like to take this opportunity, first of all, to congratulate the Honorable Speaker, Moses Wetangula. I would also like to congratulate you, Madam Speaker, on your election as the Deputy Speaker. Also, I take the opportunity to congratulate our President, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, and the Deputy Rigathi Gachagua on the election. Secondly, I would like to thank the people of Kigumo for giving me this opportunity to serve them as their representative in this 13th Parliament. People from Kahumbu, Mudhithi, Kigumo, Kenyona, and Kangare wards, I thank you, and I promise you that the election that we conducted and you gave me the votes overwhelmingly, I do not take it for granted, and I'll endeavor to serve you and assure you that all the promises I made will be gotten. I would like to take this opportunity also to thank my family, my dear wife and children, for the support that they gave me during the campaigns, and also my extended family, my brothers and sisters, my mother in Mareira, for giving me the support that was required when we were campaigning for me to be able to get to this Parliament. I assure them that our family name is in safe hands. I would like to tell the people of Kigumo that we have projects that we are following up. We have Kangari Market that we know is halfway done. I assure them that we'll be looking at it and making sure that it's complete. We are launching Mudhithi Market. We'll do groundbreaking next week. And I assure them that all the projects that we have in the constituency, we will be able to make sure they are completed during my term. I would also like to assure them that we've spoken about bursaries, the NGCDF, And I'd like to thank the President for mentioning it here and assuring us that we shall be able to have the kitty so that we can be able to educate our children. We know we have a lot of them at home, and we know some of these kids can only be helped by being paid for school fees by the kitty. And we assure them that we'll do that without favor, and it will get to the people who will be needy. To comment on the President's speech, I think one of the things that really touched us as people of Kigumo is we come from an agricultural constituency. We have tea, we have coffee, we do dairy farming, horticulture, and a lot of us are touched by farming. So the issue of fertilizer subsidy has really helped us because that is directly money that has been put in people's pockets by the President's order to have the money, the cost of fertilizer reduced. I would also like to ask the President, because I saw him meeting with the Tea Board of Kenya yesterday, that we also look at the market as we get the farmers, especially tea farmers, so that we do away with the cartels that control the pricing. That since he's decided that we go with a brand that is Kenya, we stop having blends. He looks at having a better market for our tea farmers so that we can put more money into the pocket. I would also like to thank him for mentioning the Hustler Fund, and we are waiting for the kitty because our young men and women are at home and most of them are jobless. Most would be able to help them start their businesses and run so that they can be able to feed their children. He also mentioned the issue of water. One of the things that is really a problem, especially in the lower areas of our constituency, is water problems. I would like to be involved as much as possible because if you're increasing the water, some of their businesses. Madam Speaker, I'll also mention the issue of interest rates and especially the Fuliza issue. We know a lot of people have those loans on their phones. Some of them nowadays can't transact using M-Pesa, and the lowering of these interest rates is really a good thing for us. And I hope they can even be lowered further because even the 50%, I believe, is still high. We have issues that he raised of the cabinet secretaries coming into the House of Parliament so that they are asked questions. We have the Mau Mau Road that is being constructed. We've had issues with it, and I think because it traverses more than one constituency, it would be fair for the CS to answer one question instead of us, each member of parliament, asking a question to the CS on their own, and then they have to prepare an answer for each one of us. So that should be supported, and any legal framework that will come into this house for us to be able to actualize that one, I can assure the President of our support. I will finish by saying that coming from an agricultural constituency, we will still need more to be done for our agriculture. There is market for our Hass avocados. We need to be assured because we need a law that, because we have a somewhat of a cartel in the avocado industry, so that everybody can be able to sell their avocados directly without having to go through brokers, and we assure you that we get more money for our avocados. I will finish with saying that any legislation that will come into this house, that will be to support and actualize the promises that have been made by the UDA government and our president. So long as it is serving our people, they can count on my support, and also assure our Kigumo people that their interest of being represented will be well done. Legislative functions, I will make sure that laws that are passed here also support and favor us, and assure them that we shall oversight the government. I thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Member for Dagoretti South.
Madam Speaker, I'll take this very early opportunity first to congratulate you. Madam Speaker, you are legendary. You are one of the few Kenyans that I know who have been able to serve in all the three arms of government. We saw you do some amazing work in the executive. We know you did some great leadership in the judiciary, and you're here in the legislative arm of government as the deputy speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I take this opportunity on behalf of the people of Dagoretti South to profusely congratulate you on ascending to the very high office of Madam Deputy Speaker in this House. In the same breath, Madam Speaker, I'll congratulate the Right Honorable Speaker, Moses Wetangula, on being elected overwhelmingly as the Speaker of the 13th Parliament. Madam Speaker, this is my first address in this House on a substantive issue, so I take this opportunity to thank the people of Dagoretti South constituency who decided that kweli it's time for us to get back to Bunge and do that which we had started in the last term. Madam Speaker, on this issue of the speech by the President, to summarize it into 7 very profound thematic areas. His Excellency the President was able to speak on agriculture and food security and the grand plan that he has. But not only is he speaking about it, he has already actioned it through executive action, because we saw him moving our subsidies from consumption to production, Madam Speaker. And on that alone, I want to commend His Excellency the President. This is a man who was elected on the back of a wave of a campaign that was driven by hustlers in this country. And the President was careful to recognize that there is a sector called the micro, small, and medium enterprises. And to it, he was able to speak elaborately about the plans on investing in this very critical sector. Of importance to me, Madam Speaker, is that there is a role for this House in connecting the drive on medium and small enterprises with the TVET training and the installation of institutions that will be used for incubation and for apprenticeship for these people who are in the micro, medium, and small enterprises, Madam Speaker. For people of us who are representing constituencies that are in urban areas, we took note of the great investment in the Hustler Fund and the Enterprise Fund, which we know is going to spur development in this area. Madam Speaker, I pride myself as the women representative of the people of the Dagoretti South constituency. I am a feminist, Mr. Speaker, and admittedly so. So I was very excited when His Excellency the President took up the women agenda. We know what the plans are. We saw them when he was signing charters with the women of this country. Not only did he sign a charter, he transformed it into an agenda in his manifesto, which ended up becoming the Kenya Kwanza plan, which shall be implementing. I commit, as a feminist and the women representative of the people of Dagoretti South, I commit to support any legislative agenda that will push the women agenda in this House. Madam Speaker, His Excellency the President was keen to bring up the issue on the health agenda. Each member of parliament here will tell you that when they are doing their clinics on Monday morning, the biggest issue that they have to contend with is how to pay bills. How to pay bills for hospitals, how to pay bills for the diseased. Madam Speaker, this country cannot afford to continue paying for health out of pocket. When His Excellency the President will champion bills to reform NHIF in this House, Madam Speaker, I shall be a champion. I will be championing for the reform of the health sector, for the reform of health financing, and for that, I commend the President for putting it in his speech. Madam Speaker, we have been told that there is a task force coming up to review CBC. So when it came up as an agenda on the President's speech, I was excited because some of us have children, some who are in standard 6 this year. We want to know, what does CBC mean when a young child who is 12 years old is taken to a high school and has to be in school with people who are probably 19 years, some 18 years, and this is a young student, probably age 13 or 12. So when we go into this issue of education, Madam Speaker, I know even this House shall be involved in recommending some changes to this CBC form of education, and this task force will be one of the things that will be a highlight in the life of this Parliament. Madam Speaker, His Excellency the President applied himself on the issue of ICT and the digital economy. Madam Speaker, this is the sector that brought me up. And I would like to report to this House that in the world that we are living today, ideas are the currency. Data is the currency. If we do not take note of the new and emerging economies in the digital economy and the creative economy, Madam Speaker, then we shall not be fit for purpose in a time such as this. So, Madam Speaker, it is my joy and celebration that His Excellency the President, from this very important speech, was able to address the issues of the creative economy, of the digital economy, the question as to whether telcos should continue operating as banks, whether they are regulatable when they are operating under where they're being regulated under Communications Authority, while they are also conducting monetary business that should be oversighted and regulated at CBK, is an issue of concern. The issue of Fuliza and digital loans, Madam Speaker, is critical. We cannot have a country that is listed as people who cannot pay loans. Madam Speaker, the idea of moving CRB to a credit system was very welcome as an idea from His Excellency the President, and I know this House shall have a bite on this issue, and I know our members who are representing Kenyans who have been listed, who have been condemned, shall be contributing to this, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, for me, the housing issue is critical. I hail from this city. It is the city that brought me up. I do not know of any other place as people retreat to their rural areas. Nairobi is my ushago, so to say, Madam Speaker. So when this issue of housing was brought up by housing and settlement was brought up by His Excellency the President, I was keen to know what he has to say. Madam Speaker, I picked out a great idea of aggregation, of specialization, of standardization that speaks to the people of the Dagoretti South, who are world-renowned as artisans, as Juakali sector idea leaders. Madam Speaker, if you drive on your way from Adams Arcade, from the Adams Arcade roundabout all the way to Karen, you shall see the streets lined up on both sides by people who are artisans, Juakali artisans. These are people who will benefit from this housing and settlement plan, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, because there isn't much time to lay out everything I wanted to say, I will leave it at the issue of corruption, Madam Speaker. The Honorable Member Fatuma from Migori did say that His Excellency the President had nothing to say about corruption. Madam Speaker, that speech was laden with issues that, if they are addressed, would address the main issue of corruption. But I want to remind us that even as we address corruption, we need to remind us what Mother Teresa tells us, that whatever you resist persists. We cannot keep glorifying corruption by giving it a high pedestal, Madam Speaker. Let us start speaking about integrity. Let us make institutions that are titled with the word integrity. Let us stop glorifying corruption as a name. The more we glorify corruption, the more it persists. Madam Speaker, it is upon us to align ourselves with integrity and ethics and morals, but not to keep glorifying corruption. Madam Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity, and I will take this opportunity to congratulate each and every single member of Parliament who has been elected, and I wish you a good...
Thank you, Member for Dagoretti, and thank you for your kind words. I will now call Member for Suna West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute today in this house. First, I want to congratulate you for being elected the Deputy Speaker of the 13th Parliament. Madam Speaker, before I say something about today's agenda, let me thank the people of Suna West, the great people of Suna West, for electing me for the second time to represent them in this very important house. I want to thank the youths, the religious leaders, professionals, the business community, all those who worked down 24 hours to ensure that my second victory is one which I'm not even taken to court to be challenged. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, as I continue to contribute in this today's motion, there are several areas that I want to mention, more particularly about, we are talking about hustlers' money according to the President's speech. But hustlers some are old men, some are old women, some are youths, but particularly I want us to emphasize on the issues of youths of this country, Madam Speaker. Many were promised that they will be pesa mfukoni, some were to be given 6,000 every month, but now that all of them are lamenting, if you read the book of Habakkuk, they don't know where, if there is money in their pockets, or at the end of the month they are going to get the 6,000. Can't we formulate a policy that we have a youth commission that will ensure that if small and medium enterprises money is given, youths are considered, because one, they don't have the startup capital, and two, they don't have major representative in both houses. So, Madam Speaker, I'll request this House, as we move forward and discuss this particular speech by the President, let us, as legislators, emphasize on the issues of youth so that they can be part and parcel of this country. Madam Speaker, on the universal health coverage, yes, we want to try to increase number of people being covered by NHIF. But let us also consider the standards of health in this country. Madam Speaker, we have very few referral hospitals. And if these hospitals, we don't increase the number to every county having a well-equipped referral hospital, we will continue losing the citizens of this country simply because they cannot access a standardized and health services. On the same note, Madam Speaker, we may talk of universal health coverage, but what about the health workers? Do they have a good representation? Because as we talk now, the county governments, the 47 counties, are not managing our health workers well. This House should consider forming health commission so that they can deal with the issues of health workers in the country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as well, on the same note, I want to talk about infrastructure. In the President's speech, he did not cover it. The people of Suna West were expecting a lot in terms of infrastructure. We have a major road in Suna West. It is still unusable. And we were expecting a lot of money was to be put in infrastructure so that we can benefit from this money to make this road to bitumen standard. Madam Speaker, we have civil servants in this country. As we all know, that the living standard now, the cost of living is so high, but the salary remains the same. We need to look into our civil servants. We need to look into our men and women in uniform when we are discussing economy, because in their circumstances, very few people are thinking about them, but the living standard, the cost of living is very high in Kenya today, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to talk about education. Our education system is confusing. Let us formulate policies which can guarantee standardized education. Today, even the professionals are not very sure of what is going to happen tomorrow. January is just next door, but we don't know which system we are going to use. But above all, Madam Speaker, the government has tried over a period of time on the issues of free secondary education. But the question is, the money allocated to each student in secondary school, is it sufficient as per the current situation? Something needs to be done about that. And apart from that, what we need also to do concerning school fee, Madam Speaker. Now the price of unga is 200 and something shillings. And principals are buying maize from the same market, and the allocation which was done 10 years ago still remain constant. Are we doing favor? Are we doing justice to these schools and our students, or we are losing it, Madam Speaker? So as legislators, I believe we can do something to salvage this country. Madam Speaker, I want to talk about the issue which was mentioned of KRA. I've never, world all over, I've been doing some small research. There is no friendly tax collector. A tax collector is a tax collector. The best thing which can be done is to come up with good policies where those who are paying tax can see or feel the value for their tax. By doing so, nobody will be complaining about paying tax. We need to see good roads, good hospitals, salary increment. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the issue of security, what are we doing about our people who are not secured? Are we increasing the number of vehicles to police officers? Are we increasing the salary for our men and women in uniform? Are we jailing criminals, or we are letting them free? Our court should do something about people who are bringing insecurity in this country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, finally, I want to congratulate each and every member of this 13th Parliament for being elected. But I want to remind them that as we are being celebrated now, the next day we are going to be the enemies of the public. So we need to do things which will be remembered with. Whether you are in this house or outside this house, you must develop your people to an extent that when you are not in this parliament, people will still talk about you years after you have existed positions of leadership. Madam Speaker, I want to thank my party ODM and the party leader Raila Amolo Odinga for giving me an opportunity to serve the people of Suna West as an elected member of parliament through party. Last time I was in this parliament as an independent member of parliament, and the challenges I faced, I hope the current independent members of parliament are not going to face them. Therefore, we need to strengthen parties so that democracy can prevail in this country. We need people like Raila Amolo Odinga to be respected, to be given opportunity as the few statements we have in Africa today. Madam Speaker, allow me to say this. As we are talking about Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, we must know that there are people who contributed to the liberation we are enjoying today. Sometimes back there are areas who could not even develop themselves because there was no devolution. Some people died because of fighting for devolution. I can recall very well Dr. Odhiambo Mbai, who was killed because he was agitating and fighting for the people of Kenya to be liberalized for the second time. Madam Speaker, nobody was mentioned as a candidate for devolution ministry. That worries me because my background, I'm the last mayor of Migori, and I know what devolution can do. So therefore, something needs to be done so that we have a very powerful devolution minister so that we can strengthen our devolve unit for people to get services, even if you are in government or you are not in government. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
What's your point of order? Member for Elders. All right, no, so it's not, I thought I saw you had a point of order.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this very important debate. First of all, may I take this opportunity to congratulate you, the true Gladys Bose-Cholet, for being among the few lady representatives to the 13th Parliament. Secondly, I also want to congratulate all the members here for having been elected to the 13th Parliament. Madam Speaker, seeking an elective position is the most difficult job and sometimes the most sought after job. And this is why I want to welcome my colleagues to the 13th Parliament and enjoy both the pressures and pleasures of Parliament. And I'm sure in due course you will realize that there are certain things that we must not take for granted. Madam Speaker, going back to the speech, but before I go back to the speech, I also want to thank the people of Oje West I know we have our able member here, the Honorable Muliro Farah. That was my politics. I was a member of parliament twice, elected actually for 10 years, and then later on, we were classified as the Young Legislator, the Young Legislators Program sponsored by the U.S. Embassy. And we went around globetrotting actually to benefit from the benefits of being a newly elected young member of parliament. That was 1998. We were there in America, visited over 18 states. And that's the thing that I appreciate and experience very good about this particular speech is respect for the separation of institutional roles. For those of us who are there and participated in the midwifing of the current constitution, one of the things that the August 2010 constitution actually emphasized is respect for the rule of law, and the respect for the rule of law is anchored in our constitution. Madam Speaker, you are a lawyer of many years' experience. The opening chapter, Article 1, emphasizes on representation and clearly spells out the nexus between representation and sovereignty. And that is one article that all of us must accept and pursue to the letter. Because at times you will realize, you will be told, somebody will invoke Article 95, Article 96, and say the role of member of parliament is not clearly defined. And even this animal called SRC up to now is yet to accept the role of the member of parliament. It's not only limited to representation, no. The member of parliament is an embodiment of everything in the Kenyan society. And that's why, Madam Speaker, if you want the best diplomats, members of parliament, if you are the best economic advisors, are the members of parliament. And in this country, when we talk about Kenya as a premier nation, and one of the things that was emphasized by His Excellency the President in the speech was development of the different sectors, in particular the economic sector, the security sector, the infrastructure sector, the education sector. All these requires an informed, knowledgeable, persistent member of parliament. Through legislation, what has given life, human dignity, and face to representation is the presence of CDF. Please, whatever you do, regardless of our different political persuasions, CDF must remain, and that's why I appreciate when His Excellency talked about retention of CDF. And I'm sure how that will happen is up to all of us to pursue to the letter. Otherwise, dictates from the treasury mandarins, they've always been there. They are not loyal to you. But for you, your loyalty is directly to those who have brought you to this house. And that is a very important ingredient, actually, in your life. Madam Speaker, coming back to Kenya, Kenya is not I remember just some few days before the final results actually was announced, the atmosphere was pregnant with so many rumors and speculations. The people were saying what will happen. Tribal advice here, so many challenges. But one thing that we must appreciate is the resilience of the people of Kenya, the maturity of our democracy, and Kenya, not only as just a country by the name, as a premier republic. A premier republic in which form? Today, in Ethiopia, an eventful day is happening. Why? The effects of Safaricom diplomacy. The effects of Safaricom diplomacy is now being felt in the entire Horn of Africa. And we're going to be very proud of that event, because very soon, the benefits of Safaricom will be felt all over. Equally, Madam Speaker, Kenya is an economic hub. Kenya is a security hub, it's a diplomatic hub. These are things that we must appreciate as citizens and as the representative of the people. Madam Speaker, the other day this country was voted as the best in human resource capital. What do we need to benefit from this? Is our other people were not fair. Speaker, one thing, the issue of drought, His Excellency the President has alluded to this, but one thing that colleagues from northern Kenya actually must accept and pursue, the era of food relief syndrome must come to an end. We need irrigation. We need water, madam. We need to revive Kenya Meat Commission. We need to revive the Kenya Livestock Marketing Authority. These things have died over the years. Madam Speaker, in 1968, Kenya was a leading beef exporter to the whole world. Today, we get our beef from Botswana. In 1968, Kenya was a leading donor nation. In fact, our GDP in 1968 was the same as South Korea. Today, the GDP of South Korea is 50 times that of Kenya. And yet they have no natural resource. These are things that we must deal with. These are things that we must address as citizens of the Republic of Kenya. And finally, madam, I know we are approaching a very difficult time because of the rise in inflation, the economic stagnation, Madam Speaker, the unemployment, and these are things that really, if we put our heads together, we can easily salvage. We are surrounded by countries that have had serious security challenges, and that's why Kenya remains a very important component of the international community, and that's why I believe in their own wisdom, the international community decided to elect Kenya actually as a member of the United Nations Security Council. That is not a mere achievement, it's a serious achievement which we must be prepared to jealously protect. Madam, I know this is the beginning of this session. We'll begin to learn each other, we'll begin to appreciate each other, but my final word on this is, remember, as members of the 13th Parliament, we are one family. Regardless of our political persuasion, we are one family, and outside there we'll be treated as members of one family. Whatever we do, let's engage soberly, let's engage with dignity, let's also appreciate the role. One time I was the youngest member, today I'm among the oldest members of Parliament here, madam, and time changes. And these are realities that we must expect. And appreciate that my contributions, my experience will add value to you. You are coming in will also value into you, and ultimately we'll have the best representation in the 13th Parliament. Thank you, Madam.
Member for Garissa County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Amina, Women Representative, Garissa County. First and foremost, I would like to thank the people of Garissa County for voting me in. I'm a desert flower, a young lady, and a humanitarian before I became a politician. Thank you. Congratulations for being elected the Deputy Speaker. As a woman, I'm proud of you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The speech was short, concise, and to the point. The speech was largely people-centered, and it was about Wanjiku and reflected the aspiration of the new president in charge of the lives of the ordinary citizens. However, Madam Speaker, there were notable gaps. Million plus citizens in more than 23 counties are being affected by the drought, more so the people of Garissa County, Madam Speaker. And the larger northern Kenya are staring at death and starvation, Madam Speaker. His Excellency to touch on these serious issues since he was addressing us as the people's representatives. Under our constitution, the state is responsible of the lives of all Kenyans. Efforts must be made to ensure no Kenyan will lose his life because of hunger. I must also commend the government for its little but necessary effort it has initiated in sending relief food to the people affected. More need to be done. I thank His Excellency Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, aka, for leading this. We hope the new cabinet will address this, not vote for him. Without a commitment to the unity of the nation, the government may not succeed in its endeavors. The unity of our people is paramount, Madam Speaker. The President is a symbol of national unity. Under our Constitution, we pray for him and pray for our nation as we expect him to unify Kenyans, Madam Speaker. Also, the President said he is a believer of the rule of law, and I believe that Azimio is the majority, and I hope the role of law, the law will be respected, and Azimio should be the majority. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'm proud as a woman to have a deputy speaker, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, member for Garissa County, and thank you for being brief. Members, I think the reason why we had the procedural motion on limitation was to ensure that as many members as possible have an opportunity to speak, particularly those who are making their maiden speeches. I can still who has already spoke, and their names are here. So if you could kindly pull out your cards. I have a very good memory in case you think I forgot. Yeah, like member for Imwa Dikir, I saw your name already. I think Kigumo, also pull out your card. I'll find you. Member for Elgeyo Marakwet County, proceed.
Mike, please. Okay, thank you. Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity, at least to make my maiden speech. I thank you, and first and foremost, I also want to thank God for giving me this opportunity, and also to thank the people of Elgeyo Marakwet for electing me into this august house. Madam Speaker, I want also to okay, Sasa. Madam Speaker, my journey to the August House was not easy. I come from Elgeyo Marakwet County, and you know it was the bedroom of UDA party. But the people of Elgeyo Marakwet believed in me and voted for me overwhelmingly. And I want to thank God because of that. So I also appreciate them. Madam Speaker, I come from a county that has so many challenges. And one of the challenges in Elgeyo Marakwet is the issue of agriculture. People of Elgeyo Marakwet, Madam Speaker, most of them, 100% of the residents of Elgeyo Marakwet are farmers. They are either keeping domestic animals or they are farming. Madam Speaker, the issue that has been affecting the people of Elgeyo Marakwet recently is the issue of fertilizer, and I want to applaud the President for talking about the subsidizing the inputs of farmers. So I want to commend that, and I believe that going forward, the life of a farmer is going to be as rosy as the life of somebody who lives in the city and enjoying what comes from the farm without knowing the hustle and the bustle that the farmer is going through. Madam Speaker, I also want to assure my people of Elgeyo Marakwet that I'm going to make sure that we handle the issue of banditry in the Kerio Valley. Madam Speaker, the people in Kerio Valley don't enjoy peace because there are people who have taken law into their hands, and they live with firearms the way they want. So, Madam Speaker, going forward, I believe that in this house, through this house, I'm going to make sure that I legislate properly and make sure that we're going to live like any other person living there. The issue of banditry in Kerio Valley, people who have illegal firearms in their hands are more than the people who are killed by Al-Shabaab maybe in the past 5 years. So the Al-Shabaab and the bandits are all in the same category. And through this house, Madam Speaker, I'll ensure that we are going to categorize those people as terrorists. And probably it will come to an end. The issue of banditry will come to an end. Madam Speaker, I also want to talk about, I also want to assure the people of Elgeyo Marakwet that we had two projects, the Aror and Kimwarer Dam projects, Madam Speaker, that the previous government ensured that they massacred those projects at the expense of the benefits of the people of Elgeyo Marakwet. I'll make sure that the same projects are brought back so that it can help the people of Elgeyo Marakwet to do irrigation, to irrigate and be able to farm their crops, Madam Speaker. Allow me also, Madam Speaker, to thank the President of the Republic of Kenya for ensuring that he has the issue of Mama Mbogas and the hustlers. This country, Madam Speaker, the gap between the rich and the poor is widening day and night. Because the poor people get poor daily. Through the Hustler Fund, I believe that the people of Elgeyo Marakwet are going to benefit and be able to use the revolving fund and ensure that they improve their lives. Madam Speaker, since I know so many people are already queuing here to give their maiden speech, I would wish to donate that I still have, so that even my member of parliament from Marakwet will find time to give his maiden speech. Madam Speaker, so I want to appreciate so much and thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, you know, if you come to me and have a side talk and request for time to speak, then you're automatically disqualified, because I do not want to give the impression that if you come and side talk me, you get an opportunity. So if you come here, you're disqualified. Yeah, so I think, yes.
It is said that we are the highest number, we had the highest number of returns Parliament, so I want to congratulate all the members. And I also want to congratulate my worthy opponent, Millicent Omanga. We had an amazing campaign together. We did not tread on each other's toes, and she accepted and conceded defeat, and at the same time congratulated me. I think that's the kind of politics that we want. While I stand here, I want to congratulate also the country. Kenya as a country has actually come and grown in democracy. We have had a peaceful election. There are lots of people that were hurt by this election, over 7 million people. But I want to say that for the democracy, and that democracy is the respect that we all have. The people that supported Raila Amolo Odinga say that we understand that there might have been a lot of voter apathy, and that is something that we as leaders will strive to work for, to strive to make you understand that voting is an important exercise. 8 million people did not show up to vote, and that should be a concern to every elected leader. Now we are here to discuss the presidential debate. What is, while we're looking at the presidential debate, the one thing, sorry, not the presidential debate, the presidential speech, I would like to first congratulate the president for being sworn in as the president of this country. And while I looked at the speech and I heard the speech, Madam Speaker, the one thing that I say is that this country, after an election, we try to come together. And today, as we sit here and we discuss the presidential speech, I want to say that the president talked about, and it's not about whether it was a long speech or a short speech. What I took back, continue the programs that they had in the 12th Parliament. The programs like housing, the problems like food for security, infrastructure, and I believe that that kind of continuity is important. As a woman representative, when I came into office, I found projects are done but not houses. That was a part of the agenda, the 4 agendas of the government, and I believe that continuity of programs that are good will be very favorable for this country. The area that I have a problem when it comes to food security is our rush for GMOs. I believe that the whole world, if you go to Europe right now, the most priciest commodities are commodities that are organic. So when we start thinking of GMOs, I believe that we should start trading slowly. Much as we want to feed our people, we have to make sure that we understand that as a country, we want to be also able to not just feed ourselves, but to export our products. We have to think twice, and we have to educate the people, because with the rise in cancers, if we rush to GMOs, we might end up also having a situation where we're increasing our medical costs, and we also have UHC as a big program for this country. Madam Speaker, when I think of the idea of saving, I saw that the President talked about the fact that when you retire, your NSSF contributions will not be sufficient for you to retire at the rate of 200 shillings. He talked about 2 shillings and then 1 shilling coming from the state. That is very good, but at the same time, what we have to realize that if we don't handle the big elephant in the room, which is corruption, then we will be faced with a situation where people are saving and the money is being siphoned out and stolen and not invested. When you have housing, I believe that when we save for retirement, one of the things that we should offer our citizens is affordable housing. We see a lot of citizens that have worked very hard and they can hardly live on the retirement benefit that they get from the government. When it comes to the borrowings that we have in this country, the President touched on reducing the budget by over and ensuring that our debt, the excess that we have to borrow every year of 900 billion, is reduced by 300 billion. That is a good initiative, but then we have to ask ourselves, where are we going to find this money? For me, I believe that this country loses so much more than the 300 billion to corruption. So while we're strengthening our institutions, like we're strengthening the judiciary, we're strengthening the police, we're giving them budgets so that they can sustain themselves, we've got to want to deal with corruption. An area that I had hoped that the president would have looked into is for investment and investor confidence. This country right now makes it very difficult for people to actually invest and bring money into the country. You have a situation where if you want to deposit any money, the maximum that you're allowed to deposit is $10,000. A lot of Kenyans have got money outside of this country, and they cannot come and bring this money into the country, which we desperately need. I believe that we should allow some kind of amnesty to bring in the money and remove that obstacle where you have to deposit only $10,000 and provide sufficient documentation for it. The problem is that is stifling a lot of people coming into this country to make investments. I believe that comes into this country, over $10,000 could be stolen money, but we're making it very difficult for people to actually come into this country to invest because of the red tape that we have. Children are dying because their parents cannot afford to give them healthy, nutritious food, and people are dying because there's actually no food in the country. So while we talk about the fact that this country does not have enough food, I think the most important thing that we have to address as a country is also family planning. At the moment, we do not have enough family planning in this country. We do not buy commodities. Family planning is dependent on donors. Every country has to plan its population. And in Kenya, we have failed to plan our population. In the 1960s, sure that we also manage our population. It is really, really sad to see a number of women having children, not because they want children, but because they did not have access to the information on family planning, they did not have access to the commodities. And then these women have children, and then they're condemned to abject poverty. So for me, I know that we say we're a Christian country, but I want you to understand that even God himself was a family planner because he believes in family planning. And in the cycle of a woman, there is a period where a woman cannot have a child. So for me, I think as a country, we need to plan our population so that we can actually look after our environment and also protect the citizens of this country to be able to prosper. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the presidential address.
Thank you. Member for Kandara. Member for Kandara. After the member for Kandara, then you will get what you're asking for.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to congratulate you on your election by this House as our Speaker. Mr. Speaker, having said that, I also wanted to congratulate your Deputy, Madam Honorable Gladys Shorey, for being elected as the Deputy. May I also then go further to congratulate each and every member of this House for a very hard job to ensure that you are elected to this House. Mr. Speaker, I then go to congratulate my colleagues, the women members elected from the 29 constituencies, Mr. Speaker, that have agreed to elect women members of parliament. Mr. Speaker, we are 29. I recognize that we lost 8 women by failure to retain the last House. We were 23. I was the chair of that caucus. Now we have 29. We hope to retain and get an addition. Yes, we do appreciate that those constituencies that continue to elect women, and specifically my constituency, Kandara constituency, for giving me a 3rd honorable term to serve them, Mr. Speaker, I truly will remain grateful. It is an unusual situation for a woman to be elected 3 terms, particularly from where we come from, we are still very conservative, and therefore Kandara constituency has demonstrated progressive thinking and action towards political development. Thank you. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, for seeing it fit to appoint me as the Cabinet Secretary, Water, Irrigation, Sanitation and Irrigation, subject to the approval of the House. And I truly, subject to the approval of this House. Is a very important process, and nobody should take the House for granted, even though we have received appointment. And I will look forward to appearing before the relevant committee. Thank you. Thank you for those who have said that we will approve. I truly will appreciate that. Let me make some contribution to the address of the, because I know I may not have much time if I'm approved by this House, and I'm truly grateful for this opportunity to contribute to the address by His Excellency. And for the new members who may not know me, my name is Alice Muthoni Wahome, MP for Kandara constituency, and Kandara is in Murang'a for record purposes. Mr. Speaker, I think it is important to read this address, and I know we listened to the address of His Excellency the President. One key thread that has come out for me is that he is speaking about ensuring that he will run a government that is transparent, a government that is accountable, and the role of this House is to hold the government to account. And therefore, for His Excellency to come out in his own address to uphold the House, to continue to urge the House to ensure that it undertakes its role of holding the government to check and to accountability, is something that we would want to take home. Mr. Speaker, the President has also said that he hopes his legislative proposal from his government will receive a bipartisan approach, bipartisan debate, noting that whatever proposals are brought by the government are proposals for the good and the public interest of the people of Kenya. And therefore, I think it is important that as legislators, we isolate politics from development, and therefore we agree that we can debate, we can disagree as we have done before, we can in fact even haggle and push, but noting that we are legislators, we have a duty to ensure that the government delivers on the promises that it has made. Of course, one key issue is that we did promise as a coalition that we will look at the economy from a bottom-up approach. And therefore, we would expect that the government will continue to look at projects, programs that will ensure that it lifts the people from the bottom upwards, and ensuring that the economy where it is hurting most is addressed as soon as possible. Mr. Speaker, the address by the President also speaks to reducing the borrowing of this country, and particularly the President seems to detest the fact that the country has found itself borrowing to finance recurrent expenditure. Mr. Speaker, no country can be proud if they are borrowing, instead of putting money to development, to production, to industry development, we are borrowing to meet our recurrent expenditure, and therefore appreciate the fact that that has been picked up very early in this government's term. I have also looked at something relevant to the portfolio that have been appointed for that is ensuring that there is access to water, current water coverage, or access to water being 60%, and that the government hopes that we shall push it to 80%, and we target to raise 500 billion shillings. That is in this address, Mr. Speaker. I hope that it will be possible to work with the private, public-private partnerships, investors to be able to raise the 500 billion shillings. My office, if I'm approved by this House, will remain open to members of Parliament and make sure that we work, continue to work for the benefit of the people. And I know that in terms of the legislature and the executive, if the relationship is improved, enhanced, and that we ensure that there is a logical, prudent, reasonable working relationship, we can be able to make a difference. We can be able to deliver to the people, noting that where we are as a country, nobody is very proud of the fact that the country is on its knees literally, and that we all need to work very hard. The people of Kandara, Your Excellency, I want to finalize with that, are a bit anxious, fairly anxious. I know that they expected a 5-year term from me, having elected me with quite a good number of votes, and that right now I know campaigns are ongoing. I will be having an opportunity, I'm sure, to seek approval of my constituents to be able to move to the next office. And I know that truly they would have wanted me to serve another term. I do not take it for granted that they gave me that term. I'll be consulting them. We shall be engaging even before I come to appear before the relevant committee. Thank you for listening to me, members. See you. I am here until you get me out of here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member for Kandara.
Order number 3, messages.
Honorable members, I have a communication to make, rather a message to deliver, and a ruling that follows our debate earlier in the week. Honorable members, this is a message on the nomination of persons for appointment to the offices of Cabinet Secretaries, Secretary to the Cabinet, and the Attorney General. Honorable members, Standing Order 42.1 relating to messages from the President provides that the Speaker shall read to the House any message from the President delivered to the Speaker for communication to the House. In this regard, I wish to convey to the House that I have received a message from His Excellency the President notifying the nomination of various persons for appointment to the offices of Cabinet Secretaries, Secretary to the Cabinet, and the Attorney General. Honorable members, in the message, His Excellency the President conveys that in exercise of powers conferred on him by Article 152.2, 154.2, and 156.2 of the Constitution, as read together with Sections 3 and 5 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, he has nominated various persons for appointment to the aforementioned offices. For clarity, these provisions of the Constitution state as follows: 152, Cabinet. The President shall nominate and, with the approval of the National Assembly, appoint Cabinet Secretaries. 154, Secretary to the Cabinet. The Secretary to the Cabinet shall be nominated Assembly, appointed by the President. 156, the Attorney General. The Attorney General shall be nominated by the President and, with the approval of the National Assembly, appointed by the President of the Prime Cabinet Minister. 2, Honorable Professor Kithure Kindiki, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Interior, and National Administration. 3, Professor Njuguna Ndungu, CBS, Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Economic Planning. 4, the Honorable Alice Wahome, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. 5, Honorable Aden Duale, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Defense. 6, Ms. Rebecca Miano, CBS, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of East African Community and ASALS and Regional Development. 7, Honorable Alfred Mutua, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs. 8, Honorable Aisha Jumwa Katana, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action. 9, Honorable Moses Kiarie Kuria, Minister of Trade, Investment and Industry. 10, Honorable Soipani Tuya, CBS Secretary, Minister of Roads, Transport and Public Works. Can the members at the bar take their seats, please? The Honorable Penina Malonza, OGW, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage. 13, Mr. Sakaraya Mwangi Njeru, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. 14, Susan Nahumichi, Secretary, Minister of Health. 15, Honorable Mithika Linduri, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Agriculture and Livestock Development. 16, Mr. Eliud Owalo, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy. 17, Honorable Ezekiel Machogu, CBS, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Education. 18, Mr. Davis Chirchir, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Energy and Petroleum. 19, Honorable Ababu Namwamba, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Youth Affairs, Sports and Arts.